Good evening, beer geeks. Happy Friday, and welcome to the 25th Craft Beer Channel live show, and the second in a fortnight. So we're stacking them in.
Yeah, man, stacking them in. They're like buses. You don't have one in a while, then they all come along at once.
They're much better than buses, mate. Come on, don't do us down there. It's a bus where everybody's really quite drunk by the end. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. Apologies to anybody that was going to just tune in on Instagram. We had some technical feedback issues that meant we had to just do it on YouTube. But YouTube is where all the fun happens. We've got all of our comments. You'll be able to see Brad rather than just hear him. And of course, we'll be joined by Robin from the Beak Brewery very, very soon. Unfortunately, the co-founder, Danny, can't be with us tonight. But Robin is going to fill all four boots. 4 boots that he would have. That made sense, didn't it? There would have been 4 boots. Now there's 2 legs. Don't know. Before I get myself tangled in knots, as you can see below, there's some information coming past. So crack a beer, hit us up in the comments. We'd love to know who's watching, where you're from, what you've enjoyed from Beak so far. And of course, let us know what you think of the beers as we go through. The drinking order for this evening is thus. So we're starting with Q, then we're going to have the Pilsner Dest, and then we're going to start ramping up the hoppiness with Strangers Parade and Moon. Throughout all of that, we're going to have loads and loads of comments coming through. We've already got over 200 people watching, so thank you. If you put a comment live, we will really, really, really try to get to it. If we can't, though, you can use a thing called the Super Chat, where you give a small donation that goes straight to our channel to support what we do, and we'll answer your question at the very next available opportunity, sometimes cutting off Brad mid-monologue, which, I laugh and annoys Brad. So that's
probably for the best, let's be honest. We tend to meander.
Cool. So I think we should probably bring Robin on, really. People are here for Robin, not for us. So without further ado, let's bring Robin in from Beak on to the show. Robin, welcome.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Yeah, it's Friday.
Exactly. It's Friday and we're in the pub.
You're in the pub. Well, I am in the pub.
You are in the pub. Yeah, you're even going to have a draft beer at some point tonight.
I know. I feel a bit spoiled, to be honest, and I feel like some people are going to be hating on me for having this opportunity, but there we go.
Well, guys, let's not beat around the bush. Let's get that first beer into a glass, and then we can have a chat with Robin about both the beer and the brewery. So, as Brad is so beautifully showing you, we're going to be starting with Q. What can you tell us about Q? Before Q, I've put some emojis. We always put emojis according to what it might taste like. So let me know if we got anywhere near Robin.
What have you got up there? What's that? An orange, lemon, and a...
I was trying to do sherbet.
Oh, sherbet. Okay, yeah. So yeah, definitely orangey. So Q is, we actually brewed this, obviously IMBC Indie Man Beer Con in Manchester. Couldn't go on last autumn because of everything that's going on. And so they did a few collaborations around, and it was the theme was basically something that you miss about beer festivals. And you might not think it's your first choice. We went with Q's because actually it's great. You stand behind someone, you go, oh, what are you actually queuing for? What's good at this bar? And you can actually have a little chat. And like, with all the pubs being closed and not being able to go to festivals, that was something that we felt that we really missed. So yeah, it's just a nice, sessionable, slightly hazy, sort of New Englandy style IPA, American Pale. I guess you would probably bridges the gap between those two. So it's Azacca, Simcoe, and Amarillo. So Azacca definitely gives it that little orangey note that you're getting, and I think just backed up by the Simcoe and Amarillo, you get some of that like lemon and sherbet there. So yeah, I would say your emojis there are spot on.
I'll take that. You're not talking about sherbet though. Maybe there's not an emoji for that, so I shouldn't have tried. Oh, Bradley, you're well behind.
I was waiting to get a pour on camera. The camera's having trouble focusing this evening.
Got some blurry focus. Usually it's blurry at the end, not the start.
There we go. I don't know. Looks great.
So yeah, it would be great to hear the story of Beak while we're drinking this first beer. Where did it come from, and how did you and Danny meet?
So Beak kind of came out of the mind of Danny about 4 or 5 years ago. So he was running it as a little sort of cuckoo operation and a nano brewery for a while, brewing out lots of friends' breweries in the industry, and really building like a name as like, I think he was only maybe doing 3-4 brews a year. So just like very intermittently, but brewing some really like interesting and quality beers. And then we met about, what would it have been? About 2 years ago now, actually. Yeah, God, that sounds so far away. But yeah, it must be about 2 years ago we met. So a mutual friend of ours, Johnny Hamilton, who used to run the Tempest project at Beavertown, he introduced us. Danny had just moved to Lewis, and he was like, "Oh, my friend Robin lives there. You guys would get on. We're both kind of beer nerds." So yeah, we met, and then we kind of got talking about Danny's plans to set up here in Lewis. And I really wanted to be part of something like that, sort of, from the ground up, and put my slant on it as well. And we had very similar ideas about kind of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to grow. And we like the same kind of beers, which I think is a big part of it, definitely. So we set up properly here. We did the build last summer. So we actually signed the lease on this unit that we're in 2 weeks before the first lockdown, which was an interesting few weeks around then, definitely. So we're sort of born out of lockdown, born out of COVID in a weird way. But I think there's only a few other breweries in the country, New Barnes maybe comes to mind, who have done similar, slightly foolhardy thing and set up last year. Yeah, it's been an interesting year.
So you've done. I came to your tap room in between lockdown 1 and 2, I think. There can't have been many weekends where you've actually managed to serve your beer on draft, either at your place or elsewhere.
So we've been quite lucky with it. We got a good run of it. When we opened was when pubs were actually starting to open. So we did get a good run of it with the tap room. And then even when things were sort of outdoors only, because we've got such a big yard space and outdoor area, we just, the local community here in Lewis is great. Like there's loads of bonfire societies. So we sort of begged and borrowed some gazebos, and we were able to operate outside only for a good while. So in a sense, we've been like quite lucky with that sense on that front, definitely. But yeah, I for one can't wait to get our beer back in pubs and have this open. And yeah.
Something I've really enjoyed, and hopefully it'll become clear during the live show about your beers is, and somebody in the comments has said it as well, that New England IPA, hazy IPA, whatever we want to call it, it's very velvety, it's rich and it's thick and it's juicy. But a lot of your beers have definite bitterness, a slightly higher IBU, and a little bit more dryness. It feels like. Is that something that you guys try to aim for? It's definitely in this beer.
Yeah, this I wanted to be a bit more quaffable. But certainly, when we get through to sort of Parade and some of the other beers, I really think they can get a bit one-sided if you don't have that bitterness to back up. It may not be, style, but I feel like it's such a young style in a way. Why not play around with it a bit? And drinkability is really important with a beer, especially if you're down the pub. You want to not be sick of it after one beer, right? If it's something you have and you go, well, that was a bit sickly and I can't have any more of this, then I don't know. I always think some of the best beers are ones you go, I'll have another one, please. So I think it really adds that element to it. And it just offsets, that maltiness and kind of accentuates some of the hot flavors a little bit. So yeah, it's probably my own bastardization of the style slightly, I would say. Yeah.
Well, originally, the New England IPA, I guess, was almost kind of invented by Greg Noonan and John Kimmich, the Alchemist, and their beers were and are incredibly bitter. So, I think you're to style. Everyone else is wrong.
Yeah, everyone else is wrong. What's that saying? It's no. It must be the kids that are wrong.
Just had a comment come in. So you set up in Lewis. Is that somewhere that's where you're from, or where Danny's from, or?
Neither of us are from Lewis, actually. I'm from Edinburgh. Danny's from Leeds. So I moved down here because I was working at Burning Sky before I worked here. So Burning Sky is, for those who don't know, is just in a little village, Firle, just like 5 miles up the road. So I moved here a few years ago. And then I think Danny actually moved about roughly the same time, but we didn't connect up for a bit. But we just both love the town. It's such a great community spirit. There's loads of great history. We've got the bonfire going on, and there's obviously this amazing brewing heritage with Harvey's in town, which is, still one of a kind in terms of breweries in the UK. I think. And to be able to build on that, it just sort of made sense to do it in Lewis, really. When we were initially looking at sites, we kind of had an idea of maybe we might make it a farmhouse brewery and do it out in the sticks somewhere. But having done what we've done, and we've had all this local support, and especially opening the tap room, and it's become a fixture of sort of, I say, the Lewis nightlife, what small amount there is, but it's been extremely popular, and I think we would have regretted being somewhere where we couldn't sort of be part of the community.
And particularly because I think even though Harvey's make fantastic beer, it's really great to have another local producer that's doing something entirely different. So you're complementing each other rather than. Yeah,
I don't think, unless, we are quite me and Danny are both a big fan of Best Bitter, so we might watch this space. We might brew something like that in the future, but I certainly don't see Harvey's doing any New England IPAs anytime soon. So I don't think there's any overlap there, and there's a lot of goodwill between us. We had Miles, the MD of Harvey's, come down with his son and had a few drinks with us, and right. There's a lot of goodwill. So there's certainly no we don't see them as competition, It's just everyone's kind of bringing up the rising tide, kind of brings all of us up, really.
Yep. Just had a super chat asking if I don't know who this is directed to or why, but anybody ever been to Barnard Castle?
I'm not sure I could point it out on a map.
You need your glasses for it, that's why.
Yeah.
Chris Price, I don't think any of us have ever been to Barnard Castle, but thank you for your support. Somebody asked about the water profile down in Lewis. Are you adapting your water or using what's down there already?
Yeah, no, we're doing quite a lot of weird chemistry to our water, actually. So obviously in Lewis here, we're in the South Downs, which is basically a massive chalk deposit. And where the brewery actually is, was a chalk mine for a concrete factory, for a cement factory. So this industrial estate used to be a massive cement factory. So it's literally sat amongst a giant chalk cliff just over to my left. So the water is super, super hard and not great for making fluffy, soft,
billowy
as it stands. So we soften it with some acid additions. We filter it out, and then we add back in a bit more chloride and things like that. So we don't do loads to it. We're not doing RO or anything like that. So there's still quite a lot of minerals in there from the chalk. So it probably is a bit more minerality than you might normally get in a New England IPA. But
does that perhaps contribute to sort of the dryness that?
Yeah, I think definitely. I quite like it. It's nice to have a beer. You do what you need to do to technically brew the beer, but it's quite nice to have it being, this is actually old place, and we're not trying to completely run away from that. It's not like we're using distilled water and then just building up to an imaginary profile. We're working with what we got, and I think that's kind of tradition in brewing, is everyone alters their water, going back, even people in Burton, going back hundreds of years, but they were still altering it within the confines of what they had. I quite like that, really. So it is a bit of a pain sometimes.
Like, I wish our local stamp on the beer was super soft Cornish water. Sam Congdon says he's listening whilst out delivering beer, doing God's work. Sam,
cheers to you, man. Yeah.
Sam, keep an eye on the road, mate. If you're in a car or a bicycle, I can't imagine you're watching this on a bicycle.
That's why it's for listening, Brad. I think.
Yes.
That could go wrong. Somebody's actually asked. I know it's going to be asked a couple of times, so we might as well tackle it now about the ideas for the artwork. Who makes it and where does it come from?
So the artwork, it's actually an old friend of Danny's. He's an illustrator named Jay Cover, and he just does this really sort of playful style. And we try not to say, "Hey Jay, we're doing this beer. Like, this is what we want you to draw." So I think that makes it a bit maybe derivative, or like he's not drawing art; he's just drawing a beer label. So we'll kind of go through his portfolio and go, "Oh, I think that would work really nicely with this beer." Is how we approach it, and I think it just makes the art seem a bit more authentic, because it actually just is what he wants to draw, rather than being very prescriptive about it.
So in that case, when you look through the art, are you saying that you see a moon and then go, "Let's call this one Moon"?
So that is an exception. I will have to admit, there are a couple that we do say, "We've got an idea. This is the name of the beer. This is what we're thinking," and he'll go, "How about Beatman sipping on a moon?" All right, great. But like, for example, the Oopla, this was just a drawing, like a sketch he had on his, this is our Imperial Stout. This is just a sketch he had on his Instagram. And we were just looking at it and going, what sound does this make? And we were like, Oopla? And then that's the name. And that's kind of our thought process, really. We're just quite silly with it. Like, it's I don't know, there's quite a trend in some beer names to be very like, long and sort of esoteric and whole sentences, and we're kind of a playful brewery and we want the names and like the artwork to reflect that. We don't take ourselves too seriously, really. Like it's just it's fun. It's beer, isn't it? It's a bit fun. So
also it's easier to say at the bar as well.
Yeah, exactly. That was another thing. We were always like, let's try and keep it as one word, so it's not, "Hey, can I have a pint of blah, 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 blah." It's just, it makes it much easier at the bar. There's practical considerations, definitely.
Got some people asking about the name as well while we're talking about sort of the marketing side. What is Beak, or the Beak?
So there's sort of two stories to this, one imagined by me and one that's the real one. So which do we like?
Definitely want both.
All right. So my imagined one, this is when people asked me this before I actually knew the story, and I just kind of came up with something. So is basically, because it was a cuckoo brewery, it sort of alluded to the fact that, we were getting our beak in lots of different breweries, and that was where the name came from. So that's my imagined take on it. And then the real answer is when Danny was sort of homebrewing up in Leeds. A lot of the American beers at the time had eagles on them and things. So just amongst his group of friends, they called those American style beers beak beers, because they all had eagles and things on them. And then so when Danny was brewing those American styles, they went, "Oh, it's one of those beak beers," and I think that sort of stuck. So I hope Danny doesn't crucify me for maybe one of the wrong ones, but yeah. So those are the two alternative stories there.
Well, let us know in the comments which we prefer. We've got lots of people who are mentioning Lula, which is the beer that we put in our sort of big in 2021, both for trends and for breweries that we thought would have a great year. Why did you want to brew a table beer so early on, and then to ask, I'll dig out the person who asked, but somebody asked, how do you put so much flavour into such a small beer?
We wanted to brew a table beer. I mean, beer is meant for sort of sitting around a table and sharing and having a chat and whiling away an afternoon or an evening. And as much as we love big 6% IPAs, you can't do that for too long. So, you know, we wanted something that people could sit down. It's approachable. You know, you can have a meal with it, have a couple of them, while away some time, have a chat, but still have all that flavor behind it. So, yeah, it was just a style of beer. Like, it just offsets all the strong beers that we do. And, you know, we are brewing a lot of sort of stronger, higher ABV beers at the moment. In terms of actually how we brew it, basically when you're brewing such a low ABV beer, you're just trying to get as much body and as much flavor in as possible. So you mash really high, so you've got a lot of residual sugar left, so you've got some body, and then we do just really aggressively dry hop it and hop it in the kettle as well, loads. So it's large portion of the mash bill is like flaked oats, flaked wheat, some Vienna, some Cara. So a nice like breadth of malts. If you just use one or two malts, it would be like way too thin. And then big dry hopping with Citra and Simcoe and a bit of Amarillo. I think it's key with like table beers is to do kind of more is better. With some of the bigger beers, it's actually less is a bit more sometimes. But with a table beer, you definitely just want to try and cram as much in as you can.
Yes, that's an interesting thought. I never really considered that. Yeah, I guess you're having to throw more at it to make it really shine. Whereas with an IPA that's gone through lots of fermentation, has lots of alcohol and complexity already to it, a little bit less can let different bits shine.
Yeah, I think as well, because I don't know that this is actually true, but this is my theory anyway, because you've got less alcohol, less of the hop oils are able to dissolve as efficiently. Whereas with a higher alcohol thing, they're a bit more readily soluble. So you can actually add a bit less, and you get a bit better efficiency out of them. But I don't know if that's actually true or not. This is just my theory.
We had that exact discussion on our podcast a couple of weeks ago, because I did Dry January and made a film about it. And at the end of the film, I sort of say, you know, with low alcohol beers, you're not just taking out the alcohol or the body or a bit of sweetness. Yeah. You're taking something else out. And we decided maybe it was like the fact that flavors are more soluble in alcohol. That's why vanilla extract is alcoholic.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big part of it. As well, like, you know, fermentation, if you've got more things being fermented, i.e. like a higher alcohol, you've got more congeners being produced, more esters, more of all those flavor compounds. That if you're only fermenting 0.5% of alcohol, then the yeast doesn't have the chance to produce all those flavor compounds. So even if you're using a really characterful yeast, it might not be able to actually give you that much.
Yeah. Right, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm ready for Dest. We'll check in the comments. Usually people are hounding us saying we're ready. But we're blasting through this at lightning speed today.
All right, I'm gonna drink my Dest out of an appropriate
out of a proper glass. Let me put the screen there. Is that even a proper old school like hexagonal one?
No, it's a Dortmunder Union glass that my mother-in-law picked up from Belgium somewhere. On a trip over there, they started picking me up. My in-laws started picking up lots of like vintage glasses, which was great. But now I have a large shelf of vintage glasses.
Right, so guys, we're moving on to Dest, which is a Pilsner. If you give me 2 seconds, I'll dig out my emojis for that one. We've got honey, bread, and lemon. What do you think of that, Robin? Oh, that's a pour and a half.
I'm really pleased with this. It's one of my favorite brews that we've done.
Bradley's just fighting his focus on his camera for some reason.
Yeah, what's going on with the camera? So annoying. I just want to show the artwork's beautiful, so I just want to show it off.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Yeah, Jay's great, isn't he? Brilliant stuff. We've got quite a lot of viewers this evening. I just wanted to say a big welcome to anyone who's new to watching one of these streams and Craft Beer channel. If you haven't subscribed already, just click subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks to everybody who's joining us for the first time. Okay, but before we go into what Dest is, let's just deal with what Stuart Price has slung our way. I'm going to put that to you first there, Robin.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Can I give an honest answer? But the third, with a different option, and it would be Tennent's.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be my go-to lager of choice. I think that's probably just a nostalgia thing of I grew up in Scotland, and so yeah, it's.
Is that really? Because again, weirdly, we've talked about this in our podcast that went live today. That lots of people tell us Tennent's is a better beer than people think it is.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's pretty good as far as like macro lagers go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bradley, what's your favourite macro lager? Could you include Foster's or Carlsberg in that?
Oh, hang on. We're just choosing Foster's or Carlsberg, aren't we?
Well, I mean, I gave Robin an out because I put him first. I think you need to choose between Foster's and Carlsberg, mate.
I'll go Carlsberg by the rules.
Yeah, I think we're all going Carlsberg.
Carlsberg. And as I said earlier in our podcast today, I've actually got a sort of Carlsberg T-shirt, which is made by an artist, and it instead of saying Carlsberg Special Brew, it says Carefree Special Crew. And it's an original rave T-shirt from the 90s that's been remade. Quite random chat, but there you go.
There you go. Right, Robin, tell us about Dest.
Well, so it's as you can see, a lovely Czech Pilsner. So we brewed it with, I guess sort of the most important thing about it is we got the yeast straight from the Czech Brewing Institute. So it's proper Bohemian Pilsner strain. And then we had like a lot of tank time over Christmas. So we sort of shut down for a few weeks over Christmas. So we were Foster's or death. So we were lucky enough to, Barry is right. Tennent's is where it's at. Right. So we were lucky enough to have enough time to actually give it a proper like 30-day lagering. So yeah, it's just really simply brewed actually in terms of the ingredients. It's a really simple beer. So just Pilsner malt, and then in the whirlpool we just got a little bit of Hallertau and a little bit of Saz, and that's it really. That's all there is to it. In terms of water treatment, we just did a very, very soft water, no additional minerals. So obviously here our water is definitely working against us. And then just a long, slow fermentation. And then we naturally carbonated it. So just under head pressure, we spooned it and carbonated it naturally. So yeah, and then gave it a few weeks at cold conditioning. And lager is one of those beers, it's, the ingredients kind of belie its complexity, I think. If you just listed off like one malt, 2 different hops, lovely hops, but it's not like it's got, like a New England IPA, you might use like 4 or 5 different malts, like a few different hops. Thank you, Brad. It's just I think the yeast does all the heavy lifting, and it's all about process really, and just getting that crisp, clean lager at the end.
So we've got somebody before we go too deep into lagering, which is one of me and Brad's absolute passions. Can you explain what a Pilsner is? We can dive in and help if you need. But what's a Pilsner?
A Pilsner is a lager, a pale lager beer. I think if I remember my history rightly, a group of brewers in Pilsen in the Czech Republic came up with the style after new malting technology was developed in the mid 1800s. I'm right.
In 1842.
1842. I'd say that's mid. Yeah. So before that, kilning technology wasn't as great, and you weren't able to get very, very pale malts. So you might have like an amber colored, what would have then been a pale ale, but what we might now view as like an amber. Whereas to be able to get this really straw, grassy colored beer, you need really like precise technology, which I guess was only available after a certain point in time. So this group of brewers decided they wanted something to rival a Helles, I think. Is this right?
Well, no, I think Pilsner came first.
Oh, okay.
So it would have been...
Helles was born off Pilsner.
Yeah, I think
okay.
It's so convoluted. So it's English malt technology. It's German lagering. It's a German lager yeast. It's called the H yeast that came over. And
Right.
we think that it was Hacker-Shaw's yeast. So it's English malt, German brewer in the Czech Republic, and German yeast in the Czech Republic, and then Czech hops and Czech malts.
And Czech water.
And Czech water, of course, very, very salt water. And then Germany, who was mostly still making dark lagers, discovered it and copied it, but with the German malts, the German hops didn't do it.
Okay, right. Yeah, it all gets a bit convoluted. So, yeah, I think you probably know the history a bit better than me.
But and then from a flavour point of view, I guess it's a Czech Pilsner tends to have a bit more kind of caramel fullness and a lot more hoppiness. That's how you see it compared to a Helles?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And
so
then
we did quite a high. We were toying with the idea of dry hopping this, but I think for this one we wanted to keep it quite traditional. So we just did a really big charge in the whirlpool. But we will be in the near future. Actually, we're going to be brewing like quite a hoppy lager that will be quite non-traditional, sort of somewhere in between a really hoppy Pilsner and an IPL kind of vibe.
Like sucking on a sea-washed pebble. Yeah, there's a little snap of sulfur as well, which is really nice, really minerally. It's a good description. So tell us, what does so lager is German for to store, so it means storing at cold temperature. But what does it do to the beer?
So the main thing lagering does is you actually are literally just dropping out the solids. So small proteins, yeast, all of that sort of thing. But also you do have, because the lager yeast can work at like a low temperature, you do actually have some very low level yeast activity. So you get things like it's cleaning up some of the fermentation byproducts, some of the acetaldehyde, which is like that kind of green appley flavor you might get. It just basically it just slowly, trying to work out a way to say it, and it's not too technical, but yeah, it cleans it up, for lack of a better word. Whether that be polishing it in terms of a visual thing, or in terms of actually chemically, the yeast is still just slowly acting away, and it kind of rounds out the flavor a bit. When we first tried this, especially with the yeast in suspension, and you got proteins in suspension, and that carries a lot more bitterness. It's just tastes a bit harsh and a bit jagged almost. Whereas after the lagering, it like nice smoothness and then nice and crisp aftertaste, and yeah, it just makes it into a lager really.
And how long are you lagering for? How long was this lagered for?
So this was, it was in tank for about 40 days. I think about 30 of that was post ferment. So yeah, we're saying 30 days.
10 days of actually eating alcohol, and then 30 days of cleaning up the mess it made while it did it. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love it. When I had some, you guys very kindly sent me some in the middle of my dry January, which was torture because I saw everyone else in the beer world getting very, very excited about it. It's absolutely beautiful. How does one go about? I was really interested. You said that you got the lager yeast from the Czech Beer Institute. How does one sort of go about that?
So we just have a good yeast lab here in the UK that has access to that.
Right.
I guess not directly, but it's exactly the same strain.
So do you know who was using that strain? Is it like the Urquell strain or the Budweiser?
No, he wasn't able to tell us, actually. He was, yeah. He was when I went to the Yeast lab and I was like, here's what I want. And he was like, I've got just the thing. He was like, I know exactly the thing you need, mate. So, yeah, and I asked about it, like, what brewery is it from? And, you know, what's his history? And he was like, I can't tell you. So it's one of those brewing secrets. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Urquell.
It's pretty common that you know, because all of these yeasts are generally not given the source. So a brewery will go to them and go, hey, you can use this for whatever reason, but they won't put their name on it. So we know that there's probably the Westmalle yeast out there, the Y yeast 3787.
Yeah.
We know that the New England yeast might have originally been Boddington's and all this, but we don't. Somebody out there must know, but we don't know for sure.
Well, I mean, if you had the lab equipment, you could do some genetic testing. I'm sure there's scientists out there who could pretty easily do it. But yeah.
That would be a craft beer channel video, like sleuthing yeast origins.
You should get in contact with I think maybe geneticists have quite a lot on their plate at the moment.
They've got some immuno stuff to work on.
Yeah.
Owen Davies wonders if you'll be. Oh, sorry, Brad. Do you have a question?
Well, I was going to say we've had a super chat from which is brilliant. Very punny and very funny.
Sussex Dest.
Great idea.
Ollie.
I would love to do a collab with Harvey's. I would love to get some of their yeast and try and do like a New England thing with some of Harvey's yeast.
Well, there you go. We'll send a copy of that to Harvey's. Well, I'll send a tiny video file to everyone watching. We'll all send them
a text. Yeah.
If you guys enjoyed that pun, you can subscribe to Pint Size as well, a lovely comedy craft beer channel. Let's see. There was another question that caught my eye. It's the one I flashed up briefly before Brad notified me. There we go. Yeah, have you got any plans for any other lager styles?
What was it? Hells or a Bock? Yeah, I mean we're kind of open to anything really. I was a lot of like what we brew, what lager styles we brew will be led seasonally really. So obviously here in the list we've got Bonfire. So I was thinking I might try and do like a Rauch beer or maybe a Keller beer for
like a Rauch or something.
So Harvey's does their Bonfire Boy, which is like a smoked ale. So you know, it'd be fun to do something like that. But yeah, I'd love to give a crack at a Helles, definitely.
You restored somebody's faith in lager.
Good.
I think that's a victory for the evening.
I actually think this might not make a lot of sense to a lot of people, but we've been talking about me drinking street beers quite a lot during lockdown, just so I could sort of be semi-social at a distance. And I've been drinking a lot of Augustina Helles, but I genuinely think if I can get hold of it, I'm switching to Dest because it's just brilliant, and it's excuse the terrible pun, it's an absolute beaky blinder. It took a while to get that out. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. I've been very quiet, but I'm just enjoying it. It's so good. It's warming the cockles up nicely.
It is beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see more lagers from you guys. I think you've got a Dest touch. No, let's stop this. You've got a good touch with it. It's
how much are you producing of this? Is it easy to get? Because I've seen a lot of the comments saying
this is literally the only batch we've done. I mean, for us at the moment, you'll see in a minute, but we've only just the tank space we have is so limited. And to be able to put aside 4 or 5 weeks for a lager when we're doing a New England IPA in sort of 2.5 to 3 weeks, there's unfortunately there's commercial things that we need to, of course, get beer out, and we don't have enough as it is. So we're definitely looking at like getting some more tanks very soon. So hopefully we should have more space to be able to do things that take a bit more time as we go forward. But yeah, as it stands, we've only ever done one brew of this, which is will change very soon. It's on the brew schedule.
Awesome. We've just had a super chat from KCJ Bomber FTW for the win. Come here down to San Diego and do an origin story thing on IPAs, and maybe something like how West Coast is staying relevant. I mean, we would love to come to the West Coast and make endless documentaries about West Coast IPA. It's still, I think I prefer it to hazy IPA. I'm not entirely sure. You've just released a West Coaster, haven't you?
Yeah, this is a good plug. Yeah.
Grr.
Yeah. So yeah, this is another West Coast actually. So we did one back in autumn, sort of a rye thing, but this is a bit more straight up. So 7%, just pale malt and a little bit of Cara, and then just bag loads of citrus, Centennial, Chinook, and Amarillo. And we actually fermented it with USO5, and we just did a little smidge of our yeast just to keep that house character there. So it's maybe not dropped quite as bright as I would like for a West Coast, just because we do have a teeny tiny bit of that fog in there. But it's pretty damn close, I'd say, and it's tasting great. So yeah, really pleased with this actually.
And briefly explain to us what's the difference between a New England and a West Coast IPA in your eyes?
Yeast would be the main one. So in New England, we're using like a really non-flocculent, really ester-heavy, fruity yeast. Whereas a West Coast, you usually use Chico, so like USO5, which is a very clean ale strain, really minimal esters, and ferments out like a lot drier. Water, I would say, like with the West Coast, you've got way more sulfate, so it's got that kind of prickly bitterness. Whereas in New England's like a lot more chloride, so it's a lot softer, a lot creamier. And then hops, both in terms of like where you put them in. Like a West Coast, I'd say you've got a lot more kettle hopping, so a lot more hop side. And also hop selection as well is quite important. West Coast I would probably associate more with like your classic American C hops like Citrus, Centennial, Chinook, Cascade. Whereas the New England, you've got all these wacky new varieties that are coming out left, right, and center. All these like fruit salad, pineapple, that sort of vibe. So that would be that would probably be my 30-second overview.
Yeah. So it's one's fruitier, thicker, sweeter, and the other one is drier, kind of pinier and lighter in the body.
Also, but weirdly, like West Coast also do have a bit of like, you'd use a bit more caramel malt, like a bit more crystal or caramel or something. So it does have that like, that kind of caramelly, not quite raisiny, but that vibe to it. While being drier, there's like a bit more of a maltiness to it in a way.
Yeah, it's an interesting distinction. Yeah, it is less sweet, but it's also got kind of perceived caramel thing to it. John Neal is asking if you have plans for darker beers. I mean, you have done darker beers. Have you got more in the schedule coming?
We don't have any in the schedule at the moment. While I love brewing dark beers, it's one of those things that don't seem to sell that well outside of winter, really. So we did a big imperial stout Utla that we did with some Madagascan vanilla, and our local coffee roastery supplied us some really nice Brazilian espresso roast, which was beautiful. And then we also did like a bit more of a traditional India Porter kind of thing. When was that? Back in October. So yeah, we definitely will like cycle them in winter, do some more darker beers. But yeah, watch this space, but probably not for a while, I'd say.
Why do you think it is that the darker beers don't sell as well?
There seems to just be a seasonality to it, I think. I don't know. Certainly, I mean, at the moment, I would very happily sit in a pub and drink a pint of cask porter. But I think certainly in summer, once you get summer, like spring, summer, people just seem to want to go for like much lighter beers. And they just associate dark beers with winter, which I think there's something, I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't be saying an iced coffee is not a summer appropriate drink, but you could have a nice dry stout and it's a very similar flavor profile. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe maybe people should be convinced. I don't know. Maybe we should brew some stouts.
Do you ever, I ask quite a few brewers this, it's one of my favorite questions, but do you ever feel like brewers have a bit of a responsibility to try and expand palates to encourage sort of the diversity of what's being brewed?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Sorry, that was me. Apologies.
I think that is pretty.
Yeah, sorry. It's just a lovely picture of my dad's dinner, I think.
What's he having?
I don't know, some fish.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think they definitely do. You wouldn't see, just pulling from an example like close to home, so obviously working at Burning Sky, when Mark started brewing all the kind of mixed firm stuff, there wasn't really that much of that going on in the UK. And then there's been a following of that. And I think if you don't stick your neck out and go, hey, I think this is delicious, do you want to try some? Then how is anyone ever going to know about delicious styles of beer? I mean, nobody was brewing New England IPA 10 years ago in the UK, not that much, even 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. But people went, hey, I think this is great. You should try some. And that's kind of how a market changes. So, you have to have some confidence that it'll sell. But I think if you do something that you're proud of and that you know is good quality, if it's good, it's good at the end of the day, whether it's known or unknown. And I think, it's fun for people to try some new stuff. So, we'll certainly be trying to stick our neck out a bit as things go forward.
So one thing that craft beer talks a lot about in its marketing stuff related to that is the idea of using quality ingredients to stand out. And somebody's just put a question in that's brought that thought to mind, which is about, are we all buying from the same places? Where do you get your hops from? And what are you looking for in the hops that you're buying and using?
So the majority of our hops we get from, so we contract from, how many suppliers? We got like 4 different vendors now, actually. So different hop contracting is quite a cutthroat thing, weirdly. And you, for those who don't know, so when you're hop contracting, you're basically saying, okay, I promise to over the next year buy 100 kilos of Citra or whatever it might be. And you have to buy it if you sign that thing. So we work with a few different vendors. The main one is Yakima Chief, who are a sort of cooperative or I guess grower-owned company. So the actual hop farms have a stake in the hops themselves and how they're being sold. And they're really good quality because they all have this investment in, okay, this is part of our business. They really care about the farmers and how the hops are produced, and then they care about how they're transported and how they're sold and how they're used. So I'm actually just looking just off camera in the corner of my eye, a giant pallet of hops that just arrived yesterday. And then we also we contract with a few other companies. So Bath Haas, we do a lot of our German stuff for the lagers and things for them. Also quite a lot of American, and then a few Australian companies, and a couple of others basically. But lots of hops will be only contracted to certain vendors, so you have to use different vendors if you want certain brand names for hops.
Are you going to be looking at using any English hops in any of the styles you do?
Yeah, definitely. So we're starting our mixed firm project, and for that we're only using English ingredients. So that will be we're just going to try and showcase like as local as we can, basically. And I think for those type of beers, it speaks quite a lot to those type of beers. I think you would be hard pressed to make the New England IPAs that we do with only English hops. There's realities about climate and growing conditions in the UK that just mean you won't get the same flavor profile from Citra if you grow it here as if you grow it in Yakima Valley.
Yeah, it's like a grape. You know, you can take the variety out of the region it's famous for being grown in, but it'll taste different as a result.
Which is a shame. And you know what? There is a lot of great research being done on modern British varieties, and you know, you only have to look at how far these hops come. You know, you ship hops in from New Zealand, and it's like there's a cost to that, and there's an environmental cost to that. And I think as an industry, like, we do need to be looking at that, definitely. But there's also the reality at the moment is what sells is American hops and Australian hops, and unfortunately, you can't grow those in the UK.
And it's certainly better to bring the hops in and brew with it than to import the beers from over there, because that would be
at least not transporting liquid. No. But you know, I think definitely it's something that the industry as a whole, like, we should definitely be looking at that. But you know, we're starting in our own very, very small way with the mixed foam stuff. So we will be using like locally grown grain, locally grown hops, and like we'll source some local fruit suppliers and things. So that will kind of be a way of shining a spotlight on it, even if we're not doing it for the bulk of our production.
Got a question here. It's a great question. Have you got a favorite hop?
Favorite hop? It's got to be Citra. It's got to be Citra. No hop has as much like versatility and brand recognition in the general public. Like, you know, I think you can say to quite a lot of people now, oh, what kind of beers do you like? Oh, I like ones with Citra hop. You know, even people who aren't beer people know Citra, and that's you know, getting to the point of, oh yeah, it's a Pinot Grigio, or like, I think that's
it's a powerful thing to be able to rely on. And there's a couple of hops. Somebody's already said in the comments, you know, Mosaic's another one of those. Galaxy, I think, is a niche but well-loved hop by certain people who love being.
I love Galaxy. It's a bit sulfury sometimes. It's kind of weird hop. It can be a bit astringent. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Right, we've got people saying passive-aggressively that they're thirsty. So it's time for beer number 3, which is Strangers. So emoji-wise, I've gone for a cocktail with coconut and pineapple, pina colada vibes.
If I was in charge of the emojis, Johnny, I would have gone for aliens.
Say what?
If I was in charge of the emojis, I would have gone for aliens.
Oh, aliens would have been funnier.
Mm.
I was trying to be accurate, Brad, but that
is completely accurate.
I got one. So tell me, why am I getting pina colada vibes from this beer?
Well, so basically, because of the hops, all these wacky hops that we've just been talking about. So the reason I say you're bang accurate with the pina colada thing is when I was thinking of this beer, I was thinking it was sort of mid-lockdown. I was thinking like, God, I could do with being on holiday, sat on a beach somewhere, you know, drinking a like slightly cheesy pina colada, like great. So I'm very pleased that you picked that out. Yeah, so the pina colada vibe comes from Idaho 7, which is like got the big pineapple-y, slightly orangey thing going on. So when you use it in the kettle, like when you use it hot side, it's a bit more orangey. When you use it dry hopping, really like straight up pineapple. And then the coconuttiness comes from Sabro, which is quite a new hop cultivar. So bred from a wild strain of hops called Neo Mexicanus. So they're like Mexican wild hops, basically. And you get, this super coconut-y kind of flavor to it, and they come together really nicely, backed up by a good portion of Mosaic just to kind of round out that fruitiness. So yeah, the Sabro in there is actually, we don't really use much Sabro at all. It's a really distinctive hop. And if you use too much of it, it's like, can kind of cross over from coconut and lemongrass into like, grassy dill, and it can be a bit overpowering, really.
It sort of replaced Sriracha Ace as the dangerous hop to use, but in tiny amounts, it can really set an IPA apart.
It's sweeter than Sriracha, I would say. Sriracha definitely gives me a more savory dill lemon kind of thing. This is more like lemongrass coconut, I think, the Sabro. Sriracha works really well in like a saison or something like that. I think it works beautifully. But yeah, the Sabro is certainly like a lot fruitier than Sriracha. But yeah, it's just as recognizable. You can smell it from a mile off.
Yeah, I mean, it's really remarkable. There's a couple of, I mean, I guess it's the way that hops need to go, because there is an accusation that New England IPA can taste very samey. But then you get people complaining that they hate Sabro and they hate, well, nobody hates Strata. It's a great hop. But, you know, things that do taste a little bit different suddenly get a little bit of flack for being so. But it's good to have the variety. Just got a super chat. I like the coconut vibe from Sabro, but is it getting outdated? It seems people get tired of too much coconut flavour.
It's only been on the market a few years. You know, craft beer moves so quick. God. We've only had this beer out for 6 months. I mean,
it must be. Is that a real? Well, I don't know. It's so interesting because if you love New England IPA, people are probably like, "Oh, beer's not moving fast enough." But if you hate New England IPA, you're like, "Oh, I wish it was like the old days." It's sort of time is relative when it comes to fashion.
Yeah, I have nothing wrong with beer moving forward. I you know, but well, it's a new hop to me, so I'm going to keep brewing with it. I'm getting bored of it.
I think it's brilliant when it's combined with other things like you have here. I think the mosaic really adds a fruity undertone to it, so it doesn't feel like too thin and kind of almost milky. And the Idaho as well, like to me, Idaho is like I get marmalade basically. Like
it's really nice hop,
sweet pith. It's a really lovely and vibrant, unusual hop. Somebody's asking what is Sabro. So. It's a hop, but sorry, what was the variety of wild Mexican hop it came from again?
It's just called Neo Mexicanus. I don't know the full name, but it's like it's a Mexican wild hop that was bred with I don't know what cultivar, but basically, you know, it's like with grapes and wine. You can cross pollinate and you can create all sorts of different varieties, each with their own like unique flavor combo. So when I'm talking about hops and I say Sabro or Citra or whatever, that's what I mean. It's just a specific breed or strain, or you know, and there's as many under the sun as strange crossbreeds of dogs that people seem to be coming up with. It's similar sort of.
It feels like particularly in such a hop dominated industry where you know IPA is kind of king. What the hop growers are trying to do is trying to create products that widen the palate for brewers, and allow you to add little tinges of other things rather than adding layer upon layer of mango citrus.
Yeah. And it's a difficult job because you know they'll start with maybe 10,000 crosses, and then in the first year or two they'll see which ones grow well. They'll narrow it down to 1,000, and then they'll do disease trials, narrow it down to 100. Some brewing trials, narrow it down to maybe 10 numbered varieties. They'll put that out into the brewing world. 1 or 2 might get named.
Yep.
And that process is like a 10 to 15 year process. So Sabro, or like the newest one, Talus, that's just been released, that hop will have been first bred back in like 2010. And then someone's been working with that and working with it. So while the industry is moving really, really quick, all the like horticulture that has to go on behind the scenes and all the botany that's going on behind the scenes takes way, way longer and has to be really slow. So it's this weird, I don't know. If a hop suddenly gets really popular, it can be really difficult for growers because they just won't have any acreage of it. And
Drink Biggleswade is asking, is there any hop you've never brewed with but you'd love to?
What you just mentioned, actually, Strata. I've never used it. I'm going to get some on the go. And I just brewed with a new one yesterday, actually. I'd never brewed with El Dorado before either, actually. So we've got a double IPA that we brewed with Northern Monk, just fermenting away.
All right, great.
The Citra, Eldorado, and a bit of Sabro.
What's it been like doing collabs during lockdown? Because there's always sort of the cliche that these collabs generally involve a couple of emails to sort out the recipe, and then you just get drunk together. It's
a lot less fun, I got to tell you, Johnny. It's.
But have you spent more time?
A few texts, a couple of phone calls, and then it's just a normal brew day.
Nice day out. Yeah. I guess it's much more fun for the visiting brewery.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you go, oh look, he's digging out. I'll have another beer.
Have you found that you've been doing now we all chat to our friends every week where we might not have before? Are brewers the same? Are you all chatting to each other more as a result of not being able to talk to each other?
Yeah, a few. I mean, in terms of local brewers, it's been quite good. Guns, a small local brewery up the road, has been lending us their filling things so that we can fill mini kegs. So there's a lot of camaraderie, certainly locally. And texting other brewers for advice, and they'll text me hey, you had this issue with this, or how would you go about trying this? And I think there's always been that camaraderie amongst craft brewers. It's not really such a thing as a trade secret in craft brewing, I don't think. I've never asked someone, as a young brewer, I've never asked someone for a piece of advice, or even to borrow bits of equipment that we don't have, and they've gone, no way. Yeah, they've always gone, oh yeah, sure, yeah, just swing by on Tuesday. So it's great, and I think everyone understands that everyone's in a tight spot at the moment. We're very happy to help each other.
In the interest of balance, somebody's asked what your favorite malt is as well.
Ooh. I'm gonna say either Maris Otter or Golden Promise, I'd say.
So the quality pale malts.
Yeah, good quality British pale malt. You can't beat it. Yeah.
It's something that's forgotten, I think, in a lot of IPA brewing. We're it's an American style with American hops. And you're like, yeah, but it's probably with British malt.
British malt, yeah. I think, it would be a Maris Otter, definitely.
Somebody's asking on Facebook, Gavin Baxter, what will be your dream collaboration, a brewery you'd love to work with?
We're kind of already doing them. We've got this beer with Northern Monk. There's a few that I can't quite talk about. We've just released a double IPA that we brewed with Thornbridge, which for me was, those guys are absolute giants of the industry, and to be able for them to approach us and say, hey, we'd like to brew a beer with you, was sort of, I had to pinch myself a bit. That was, so much respect for that brewery and what they've achieved. So yeah, I would probably say, I don't want to insult any other brewers that we might do collaborations with, but the one I personally was most pleased about was when I got the email from Rob and Dom at Thornbridge saying, hey, do you guys want to brew a beer together? It's like, yes.
Did you know why they picked you? Was it a specific beer they loved and wanted to chat to you about, or?
They liked the beers, but also there was a bit of a story of the breweries that they were doing it with. So it's us, New Barns, and Amity are the three. And basically they wanted to do it with breweries that were stupid enough to open in 2020. Yeah. I think it was just, a bit of a give the small guys a bit of a leg up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Thornbridge, they're giants of the industry, but they're also ones that have always remained entirely involved in the small scene and continue to put out endless new beers as well themselves. Yeah. Real influence, I think, to a lot of breweries.
We've had quite a lot of people suggesting that you do a collab with Don Zoco. Is that?
I'd be well up for that. I'd be well up for doing some lagers with Don. Yeah, I love his beers. We have them on quite often at the tap room as our lager offering.
Oh, right. Yeah, there aren't many better small batch lagers, I don't think, in the world, really. It's a stunning brewer. Right, well, I think it might be time for the brewery tour.
Sure, I think it's time for the brewery tour. I just need to grab my assistant. He's going to be holding the camera for us.
Yeah, patiently. Yeah, so I've been down to your brewery. It's a beautiful place. I love we probably can't see them now, but the amazing white cliffs that you have sort of almost out the door.
Yeah, so obviously there's no point showing you outside at the moment. It's just but I'll just take you guys round our rather modest brewery. And yeah, if anyone's asking questions about certain bits, you want me to stop on anything and explain it a bit more, just jump in.
Yeah, we'll jump on in. I might leave that. I'm going to pop for a loo break. So Bradley's going to watch the comments just for 2 minutes, and you start the tour. I've seen it all before. It's a beautiful place. So we'll go full screen on you, and this is the brewery tour.
All right. So here's our brewery. So I guess we talked a little bit earlier about the water here. So just to give you an idea, we were talking about how we soften the water. So I'll just give you an idea of what that actually looks like in practice. So it's a really simple system, really. So we've got these little blue containers here, just some filters, like carbon filters. So that just helps to filter out any chlorine or any kind of nasties that might give us some off flavors. And then this is the actual gizmo that softens the beer. If we can just pull the camera around a bit, sorry. Yeah, so this is the actual gizmo that injects the acid into the water and softens our water for us. So these are our liquor tanks. In brewing, for some weird reason, we call water liquor as soon as it goes into the tank. So these are our hot and cold liquor tanks. And then this bad boy here is our mash tun. So we went for a big oversized mash tun just because we're brewing so many strong beers, like the double IPA that we brewed yesterday. We just wanted something, so we didn't have to be either brewing like half-size batches or resorting to adjuncts or anything like that. So in the mash tun, we mix all of our grain and hot water. And what happens there is all the enzymes in the malt start breaking down the starches into sugar. And that's really important because the yeast can't digest, they can't metabolize the starches, but they can digest the sugars and ferment the sugars. So there is kind of where we set how sweet or how dry the beer is going to be depending on exactly what temperature we mash at. So it kind of is basically like mixing a giant porridge. And then from there we will sparge. So sparging is literally like rinsing the grain of all the sugars. So we've got like a kind of rotary arm with lots of little holes in it. And it just slowly trickles down hot water through the grain bed. And then rinses out all our sugars. And then we have what we call hot wort or sweet wort. So that's before we add any of the hops. It's just literally this really sweet malty liquid. It's lovely on a cold day actually to have a bit of that and a little drop of whiskey in. It's lovely. So that goes into the kettle, our wort kettle here. So this kettle is direct fired. So we've just got a gas system which direct fires into the kettle to boil. A few other options, like you can use steam, you can use electric, and there's like a couple other options you can use. Gas fired for us was basically super economical and does the job really well. So in the kettle, a few important things happen. Firstly, we sterilize the wort. So on grain, obviously, there's all whatever bugs and things were living there in terms of microorganisms on the grain, like on the outside shell of the grain. So we need to sterilize that so we get a nice clean fermentation. And then you also drive off a few other unwanted flavors. And it allows you to get bitterness from your hops. So all that bitterness comes about, well, 90% of it comes about from the hop side. So you're actually chemically changing some of the chemicals in the hops called alpha acids. So when people talk about, high alpha hops or things like that, that's what they mean. They mean it's got a high amount of alpha acids, which is what provides the bitterness. And with heat, that chemical structure actually changes, and then we perceive that as bitterness. And then you can also extract a bit of flavor, a bit of aroma from the hops in there as well. We boiled for longer. Obviously, we get more color on the beer. So if you were doing like a barley wine or something like that, you might want to boil for a few hours rather than one. But most ales or things like that will just boil for an hour, perfectly ample to sterilize and do what we need to do. And then the important bit for the style, for most of the styles of beer that we're brewing, is the whirlpool. So if we just move around here, so you'll notice the whirlpool is actually a lot sort of shorter and fatter than the other tanks. And this is for a really good reason. So in the whirlpool, we take all the hot work and we pump it in really, really fast. And we add all of our aroma hops into here. And so it mixes them all in, and the wort is a little bit cooler, so we're not getting all that bitterness, but we are extracting all the oils and all that aroma and like all the flavor from those beautiful hops. But then we've got an issue. We've got all this particulate and hot matter that we need to get out. And you can't really do it through a filter because it just gets clogged. So if you've ever had loose leaf tea and you've stirred it in a glass or in the mug, and the tea leaves all kind of clump up in the center in a little dome, that's exactly what's going on here, just on a much, much bigger scale, basically. So because we're spinning it so fast, all the trub, all the proteins, all the bits of hot particulate, they all come out in the center, and then we can actually pull the beer off from one of these two pipes here. So we get a nice clear wort without any particulates in it, which is really important for a nice clean fermentation. From there, we pump the beer around. There's some pipes that come all the way around behind all of these tanks to our heat exchanger, which just sits behind here. Which is this blue guy here.
Nice.
Sorry, was some?
No, I just said nice. It's a beautiful brew house you've got, Robin.
Yeah.
How big is this compared to what you came from your previous job?
So it's pretty similar size actually. I think Burning Sky is like 17 barrel, and we're 15 barrel. But I managed to slightly overfill all the tanks, and we're actually running at about 17 barrel as well.
Nice.
Got to get a bit more out. So yeah, I should say this is all Malrex fabrications. So they're guys up in Burton and Ponttrent, and they've been doing this for ages, making brew kits, and they make some really good quality kit. Just well made, very simple, no unnecessary bells and whistles, all manual, but just works really well. So we go through the heat exchanger. So we cool the wort down to fermentation temperature, so about 20 degrees. And also we've got a little gizmo that oxygenates the wort, which is really important for yeast health. So weirdly in beer, especially New England IPAs, once you finish fermentation, you don't want an ounce of oxygen at all. It will completely ruin your beer. But at the beginning, the yeast needs it in order to multiply and in order to ferment properly. And if you don't have enough oxygen, you'll get a really sluggish ferment and bad things will happen. And when you boil, it drives all the oxygen out of the wort. So we've got to add it back in somehow. So we just directly inject pure oxygen basically into the wort. That helps us get a nice strong fermentation. So we just hook up this just with one of these flexi red hoses that you saw up on the hang up on the brew kit. Sterilize it all and then hook it up to the tank, and then we can just pump the cooled wort in. And we recover all the heat into the hot liquor tank as well. So if we're brewing the next day, we're not just losing all that heat somewhere. We're actually recovering it back. And then we've got 4 3,000 liter fermenters. Soon to add a 5th because we don't have enough beer. And these are pretty standard kit, really. So we never move the beer or transfer the beer at all. We like to just do as little processing as we can. There's lots of ways you can centrifuge and do all sorts of things to beer, and it can mess it up basically. You can change all the flavor compounds. You can get oxidation. So I just like keeping it in one tank, just being very gentle with it. It doesn't break up the yeast and get any off flavors that way. So once it's in tank, we'll maybe be in here about 2.5 to 3 weeks. So about 5 days fermentation, few days conditioning, and then we dry hop. So if we can point up to the top of the tank up here. So this, where are we? Ooh, this gizmo, the thing up on the top of the tank. Yeah, there. This thing we use to add hops into the beer, and we can purge through. So we can just run some CO2 through, so that we're not getting any oxygen into the tank. Allows us just for it all to be a closed system when we're dry hopping. And then we mainly can. We use like some mobile canners who come in and they bring in their canning line equipment. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to add about the FPs. Not really.
We had a question from Rob that just said, "Have you got much room to expand beyond the 5th ferment?" Because we haven't seen the rest of the brew.
We can do a brief pan over to the chaos that I'm hiding on screen. So these are all pallets of beer that are due to go out. These kegs are getting filled on Monday. Hops that have just arrived. All this beer is sold. So this is the space for the next 2 tanks.
Great stuff.
And behind us, we've got the bar that backs into the cold store. So we just direct draw the bar from the cold store. And then up top here, we've got our malt storage area, our auger. So this runs the malt from over here into the hopper. Into the hopper there. So not loads of room is the answer.
Is there? I haven't actually been there yet. Is there another unit next door that you can expand into, or
there is? But I don't remember.
About the 5th? Start cutting into the chalk.
It's all gonna get. We're gonna get some good feng shui. Basically, is the plan. We're just gonna try and be very organized about it. And we still have a fair amount of room to grow. While it's like, only 2 tanks doesn't sound like much. That is 50% more beer, which is still quite a lot more beer. So hopefully we'll be able to satiate everyone's thirst for a while longer. And one final thing while we're on the tour, actually. So I was talking earlier about our mixed ferm project. So I'll just show you that very quickly. It's rather modest.
Johnny, you there? This is the best tour we've ever had around the brewery.
I'm here. I'm staying silent.
This is our very modest mixed ferm project so far. So this is the humble beginnings. So for this, it's just a simple rye and wheat saison, half of which we've got aging in these beautiful ex-red wine barrels, Burgundy barrels. So this just went in a few weeks ago. It's been pretty cold at the brewery, so they're just starting to wake up as the temperature's getting a bit warmer. You can occasionally see these little bubblers just bubbling away, which is quite therapeutic when you're sitting doing some office work. And then in this tank, we have exactly the same saison. This is just an old steel moving container. Basically a perfectly good container to age beer in. So we'll split this batch, some of which we might do on fruit, some of which we might dry hop. There'll be a few expressions of the same beer. The mixed ferm project, there's quite a lot of exciting things going on with it, actually. So we've just had planted in Rodmell, which is a town 3 or 4 miles away, just south of Lewis, an acre of ancient sort of mixed rye and an acre of wheat. And then in a few weeks' time, we'll be having some 5 acres of spring barley planted. So they'll be exclusively for us and malted for us.
So increasing that idea of you guys having your own personal flavors and ingredients and approach.
Yeah, so that was like, I've been working with this guy called John Letts, who's this amazing character. He's a grain breeder, sort of ex-baker, and basically he creates these blends of ancient barley or wheat or rye varieties with the hopes that they are more resistant to climate change, basically. So if you've got this kind of broad mix of different species in a field, if there's a bad weather or it's too wet, some of it will still survive. much better than if you just have a single variety in a field.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as well, although we've not actually brewed with it yet, but I've heard from, so he's mainly been using it to make whiskey. But yeah, I've heard it's got some really interesting characteristics to it because it's mixed. You'll get this like breadth of flavors through the malting process that you wouldn't get from a single grain. So it should be this really interesting, unique thing to work with. Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to it. So that won't be until probably this time next year that we actually, by the time the grain's harvested, dormancy and malted, we won't actually be using it until 2022. But we're kind of laying the roots for that and got quite a lot of grain to get through for our mix room. So yeah, this side of things will certainly grow.
Amazing. Well, thanks for that awesome tour. Let's
we get a thanks for your cameraman or camera lady who's behind the camera. It's been great.
You're welcome.
Great stuff. Give a yay round of applause.
So yeah, while we were doing that tour, we had lots of questions. The first one we need to go to is
watching Johnny
Marina, who has been trying to get the attention of Brad all evening, and finally give the shout out, Brad.
Marina, darling, it's lovely to virtually give you a shout out. Thank you. You're making me blush with all these comments. Are you real? Are you a troll? I'm not quite sure.
I'm keeping the spirits up.
But yeah, thank you very much, and it's appreciated.
And we also need to say a very happy birthday to Erin. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Erin.
I hope Erin's having as much fun as we are. So yeah, we had lots of questions about the Mixed Firm project before we showed that. When can we expect to see the first releases?
So this, I'm kind of tentatively hoping we'll be seeing something, I want to say late summer, early autumn. I'm certainly not, these beers are not beers to be rushed. They're kind of ready when they're ready, and they will dictate the timeline more than I will. So yeah, Danny actually asked me this the other day, and I gave a very annoying answer of, oh, well, when they're ready, they're ready.
How long's a piece of string, Danny?
So, no, but realistically, I think, yeah, probably late summer, early autumn, kind of look out for that sort of time.
Awesome.
But I think, in terms of actually having enough barrels to be able to do interesting blends and things like that, it really takes years to be able to kind of get up that stock of beers, especially the older beers that really add the character. You want to be able to adding beers that are maybe 2, even 3 years old to really add that proper aged character. So I think we won't be hitting our full stride with it for a few years yet. But yeah, tentative early releases certainly by the end of the year.
Alrighty, well, talking new releases, should we? Actually, well, it's not a new release. It's your core IPA. Should we crack on with Parade?
Let's go for it.
I think we might have missed the super chat while you were away, Johnny. In addition to,
I don't think so.
I think we did. It's a way back. The comments. It was like a wildfire when you went away, and I just didn't want to interrupt Robin's masterful tour of brewery. So, oh mate, I can't find it now. Whoever did a super chat, please say, because I'm pretty sure we missed one.
No, they'll all be saying it. Oh, I've just cracked Moon. What am I doing?
Oh,
telling me I've missed a super chat. Parade. Here we go. This is Parade. So tell me about Parade. Is it a core beer?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And why? Tell us why you picked this recipe to be the beer you brew the most.
Well, when we were originally sort of planning the beers and what we were going to do, we were actually planning Parade to be like an ever-changing IPA, and we would do a different parade of hops each time, kind of thing. But we brewed this first hop combo at Burning Sky just before we opened, did a cuckoo brew there, and we just really loved the hop combo, and we just decided, you know what, let's just keep this as is. So it sort of bridges the gap a bit, as you were saying earlier. It's got a bit of bitterness to it, and it's not super like, you know, it's not completely murky. Nice haze to it. So I think it sort of bridges the gap in terms of, is it a West Coast? Is it a New England? I don't know. It's parade. Was never really trying to brew it too much to a style. I was just thinking, like, what are the things that I like in a good IPA? It's like a nice, good body, good mouthfeel, a little bit of haze, brilliant dry hop character, and a good bit of bitterness to back it all up. So yeah, whatever style you want to call that, that's what it is. But yeah, we just we wanted to just keep showing this off.
It's got a really unique aroma. Like I've put in, 2 classics, mango and orange, but there's a, like you say on the can, a kind of strawberry bubblegum.
Yeah.
Something that's a little bit unusual, which I wouldn't associate with Citra. Well, maybe Mosaic, a sort of strawberry kind of thing from Mosaic, but it's a very unique aroma.
Yeah, I get a little bit of strawberry. Yeah. I think so we still have been having fun with it in terms of, like, we're always playing around exactly with our dry hop schedule a little bit with this beer, because it's the same hops each time. That's our kind of room for experimentation is, so there's this new type of hop product that's cryo hops. So they've just got a lot more oils basically, and they give quite a different flavor. And so, we've been playing around with what proportion of cryo to T90s, which is the kind of standard pellet. How warm we hop it, how many days we dry hop it. Do we do it over 2 different batches and, like, drop the hops in between? The batch that's in tank at the moment, we tried doing a little bit of during ferment hops. So that's my family chat again. So I don't know how to turn it off on my laptop.
It's busy.
So yeah, we've been playing around with that basically in terms of what we actually do with the hops. But in terms of the recipe itself, the ingredients are always the same. And it, I think it's quite fun to hear the different feedback from people and being like, oh, this batch was a little bit more fruity, or this batch was a little bit more sessionable. How do you do that? So yeah, it's been pretty fun to play around with that.
We've got a super chat just while we're taking a quick pause from. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't try. Dear Mood, we've done. Have you got like an underrated malt type that you think is great, but not many people use?
Underrated. I would say probably the most underrated for me would be sort of more of the, like, caramel, or maybe some of the one that we use a lot of that I don't think is used that much would be Crisp use like a malted oat product, which adds like a nice sweetness. And I don't think that's used that much. I know people use the Simpsons one, which is called like Golden Naked Oats, but that's a lot more highly kilned. Whereas the one that Crisp do is like super pale, but just adds this subtle sweetness and like creaminess. So that's one that I quite like. But yeah, I don't know if I have an most favorite underrated one off the top of my head. Yeah,
it's a tough question as well, because particularly with malts, they have to play with lots of other malts, so it's generally a sort of combination that.
Yeah, you're not usually doing one on its own. Yeah, there's usually a combo that's going on there, definitely.
We've had lots of questions about favourite pubs in Lewis, which I think we should come to in a bit. But somebody's asking about your favourite Scottish breweries, and I'd love to know. When did you leave Scotland?
So I came down here at the beginning of 2016. So I've been down here about 5 years now. Favorite Scottish brewery? I would say Tempest would be definitely up there. Brilliant brewers, and pretty underrated. Pilot in Edinburgh, another brilliant brewer, and new to the scene, but cracking out some brilliant beers. New Barnes, a lot of good friends there as well. And then if I was going for like an old sort of more mature brewery on the scene, not old, that's the wrong word, a mature brewery on the scene, Fine Ales. Yeah, some great memories, like the first home brew comp that I won was Fine Ales, and yeah, we got to go and brew a beer up there, and we like camped outside the brewery, me and my mate who won. So yeah, a lot of fun memories from up there.
We had a night on the sauce with the Tempest lads, didn't we, Johnny? At London.
Oh yeah, London Craft Beer Festival.
Yeah, they're good guys. Great beers. Very underrated.
It's really interesting. They always are on the Rate Beer Top 100 as like best rated brewery, one of the top 100 in the world. But they're never sort of talked about in the British craft beer sort of favourite breweries. I don't know whether it's to do with their distribution being very limited. Only
they keep it quite local.
Yeah,
I think they're quite underrated, to be honest.
I agree. I've loved everything I've ever had from them. I think they're great. Christopher Dean's just given us a super chat, but didn't want to say anything. He's strong and silent, Christopher Dean. Thanks for the support.
Dean. Friend of mine, Chris. Hello, Chris.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having a wonderful brewing friend as well.
Have you been in Lewis long enough to get involved in the bonfires or anything yet?
Not yet. No, I mean, we go to it. I have wanted to get involved with it. It's quite, you need, because a lot of the clubs are so popular, the societies are so popular, you need to be sort of recommended to be able to get in.
Like sort of handshake sort of vibe.
Yeah, no, it's pretty like, it's really serious. So one of our neighbors who lives just behind us, he always, every spring, he like airs out his costume. And they're these beautiful, like people spend so much time on all the costumes and everything. And like, I think part of the reason we maybe haven't is my partner is a costume maker, and she's maybe worried that she might get roped into a bit too much making of costumes for it. For it to be a good idea for us.
There's some flaming barrel action that you could get involved in.
Yes, there's a lot of flames. Yeah, so there's like flaming barrels
down the sea, right?
Yeah, they drop in the river. We blow up effigies of politicians or anyone in the public eye who's done something stupid. Tell you what, because we didn't have a bonfire last November. If we're allowed to have one this year, there's a lot of let's just say there's a lot of public figures that I can imagine people of Lewis will want to blow up in effigy form.
I wanted to come and get involved in the bonfire stuff, but all the roads into Lewis shut down, don't they?
Yeah, so it's. I think actually everyone in Lewis would be quite happy doing it and not having any outsiders come in.
Yeah,
they would do it if no one was watching, and they do. And it's on a Monday night. Very few people come, and they just still do all the same stuff. So it's not about the sort of showing off aspect of it. It's some aspects of it are quite solemn in a way. Some aspects aren't. And it's kind of this weird conflation of like loads of different traditions, anti-establishment, like, it brings in all of the history about the Protestant martyrs, Catholicism versus Protestantism. And it's, to an outsider, it seems very, very strange. Like in the center of town, there's a giant banner in October and November that just says no popery. And coming from Scotland to have something that sectarian hanging up is like, okay, that's pretty mad. So yeah, it's all it's all done in good, in sort of good spirit, really.
Oh, it's a great place, Lewis. Like I've been there a lot when I was a bit younger. With my dad, I used to go there and go antique shopping and stuff. But also great pubs, as many people have said. I sort of remember there being a pub that had a tree inside. I don't know if I've made that up. Yeah, I don't know whether there was a pub with a tree inside or something that was very elaborately carved, like wooden sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, there is the Lansdowne.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a living tree, but yeah.
Yeah, it's the Lansdowne. Right, okay, I haven't been there in years, but I just, in my deep, dark memory, it's sort of burned in as like a tree that's sort of carved or something inside.
Yeah, there's something like. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place, Lewis. Brilliant. It's quite spooky. I like it.
Yeah, there's a lot of old cobbled streets and all that sort of lark, definitely.
We've got somebody in the comments asking what dank is. I feel like dank is kind of different to everyone depending on how much weed you've had in your life. But
I'm glad you said it,
really. How would you describe dank, Bradders?
Well, I did. Well, I don't know if I should say this on the interwebs, but I did smoke a little bit of weed last weekend, just to help with my anxiety a bit, and it was great. So I guess dank, the sort of idea of dank would be if anyone sort of walked past someone smoking some of the devil's cabbage, and they've got a whiff of something that smells. Well, quite dank. I don't have another word for it, really. But it's very sort of cannabis-y sort of smell, isn't it? I don't know.
Deeply resinous and weedy and sticky and umami. I don't know what it is. It's something,
I think,
but delicious.
Sort of
It's
smells
very
like
rich. It's got a real richness to it, hasn't it? It's a kind of deep smell and a kind of funk. It's funky.
I guess a non weed reference for me would be like in Edinburgh. There's the glass houses at the Botanic Gardens,
Right?
Like a jungle environment.
Yeah,
that's what it smells like to me. Dank. When people say dank, sort of almost very vegetal, rotting, jungle, humid kind of vibe.
I remember when Verdant released One More PSI, their Mosaic beer, and they described it as 80s gym sock.
That's not on the can.
Yeah, bold.
No, yeah.
Dank, a weed that turns to a flower in your mind. What
Nice.
a poet. I think
that's beautiful, Mark.
Inspired by some possibly by some weed.
Yeah.
I've got to say, everybody's loving this beer in the chat. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and like you say, I mean, I wouldn't quite say it's West Coast, but it's
no.
And that's something that New England beers can lack a bit of sort of freshness and zippiness sometimes. I think it's absolutely delicious. I love it.
There we go.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good description.
Yeah, that's a good description.
And socky. There we go. Thanks, Elizabeth, for putting that back in our minds. There probably is an emoji for socks, so I'll bear that in mind. Devil's Cabbage IPA. You can have that name if you want it. You don't, Robin, but you can take it. Sock.
Yeah.
Good. That could work. Then just mostly people just saying Bradley or Bradders or Brad. What is the heart of this feed?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's because I've been so quiet or I had a little bit of a sort of fan club.
I think you've got a bit of a quite a nice new romantic vibe going on. Like your side party has become a bit like.
My hair is very long at the moment. I was gonna have it down, but then I was like, no, it's too long and scraggly, so I'll put it into a sort of man bun, like I usually do, to be honest.
Brad, you know how the internet works. The next comment is going to be, Brad, put your hair down.
Yeah,
well, that's true. Well, I'm not doing it till someone asks.
There you go. Fair enough. That is also the way the internet works as well. I don't think we're going to go down the OnlyFans route at any point on the craft beer channel, but there we go. Anyway, we're getting derailed here.
I'll see how long this lockdown goes on for, Johnny. Otherwise, we'll have to start sort of getting very
advertising revenue, guys.
There it is. There it is.
Oh shit! There you go. There you go. I don't know if that's good or bad. I sort of look a bit like Wurzel Gummidge, maybe. It's got quite long. I didn't realise it got long because I thought I chopped it not that long ago. But there you go.
We've forgotten how long we've been in lockdown, Bradley. That's could have been a month.
It's actually been 3 years, Brad.
I've never grown my beard very long, but I'm tempted to. I should have done it at the start of lockdown, and I would have had like a white sort of dirty wizard beard by now, I reckon.
Be a Gandalf by that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Like where Gandalf's on the top of the tower, like where he's.
Thanks, Ken F. That's the comment of the night for me. Yeah, my hair probably does smell a bit dank, to be honest.
I can't find that. I'm saving. We've had a super chat that I was saving. It will get us back on track. So I'm going to use it. I'm going to put us back
here, Johnny.
Robin, would you recommend a career as a brewer? Is it all it's cracked up to be? What are the positives and negatives against an office job?
Okay. Oh, that's quite a big question. Yes, but with like a number of large caveats. Well, okay. So my first one would be I do not do well like doing office-y stuff. So which is sort of why I like brewing so much. You're on your feet. It's a very changeable job. You're doing different things every day. Especially my job now, it's like, I'll be doing this in the evening. Tomorrow, or Monday, I'll be doing some Excel. Tuesday, I'll be brewing. It's very changeable. When you come into the industry, it's a lot more grunt work, for lack of a better word. So, be prepared for long days of relatively monotonous work in a very fun, exciting environment. So I would say it's not sitting around having a beer all the time. It's not this all the time. There's a lot of hard work, and it is manufacturing at the end of the day. So I really like that. I like all the physical aspects of it. I like, especially in the craft industry, you're sort of putting science into something that's slightly artistic, and it's kind of a good all-rounder sort of job. But I wouldn't be too. It would be very, very different to an office job, having never done an office job. I don't know what people do in an office. I have no idea. Like when people say, "Oh, I had a really busy day," I think, "What? But how many kegs did you? What did you do?" You know what I mean? I know that's super naive, and I know people are doing like real hard work, and it's like mentally taxing. But because I've never done it, I just can't. I'm just like, but what do you actually do? Like, I don't know.
To put that in the context of you as a business and as a brewery, are you gonna keep Beak at the size where you'll always be hands-on? Because it's the classic story of somebody starting out in the mash at the brew house and then mostly.
And then I get jumped away being in office. No, I mean, yeah, I can't. Being realistic, I can't always be doing as much hands-on stuff as I am doing. But I think it's. Yeah, I would still like to, even as we get bigger, still have a hand in, brewing and do a brew every once in a while. So Sean's handing his notes in and becoming the brewer I was meant to be. Oh, I'm glad, Sean. like the positives I would say of the industry is it's a great industry. There's great people in it. It's really exciting. You know, it's a young, by and large, a really young industry. You've got people doing all sorts of exciting things. It kind of feels like people just kind of come up with an idea and do it. Like it's very fast paced, which if you're into that is great. And in terms of if you're working for a relatively successful craft brewery, like you'll get to do lots of fun business trips, go to like, you know, a business trip is going to a beer festival, which is a pretty good business trip as far as they go. So yeah, I would recommend it, but I would just, my sort of caveat would be like, there's a lot of hard work behind the scenes, you know, as with any job that people say, oh, that's my dream job to be a brewer. It's, yeah, there's a lot of hard work that you don't see amongst the sort of more glamorous stuff.
A lot of cleaning, a lot of early mornings, a lot of cold days.
Yeah. It's cold in the winter. It's very hot in the summer. You know, it's part of the job. It's great. You know,
would you give anybody trying to get into the brewing industry? We've had a couple of comments. I mean, we can get into sort of Brexit and the issues that it's going to cause for brewers. Many of brewers are international, but how would you get into brewing, whether you're, you know, emigrating or not?
So I would say, you know, go and ask a brewery, do you need help on a canning day? Or do you need help kegging or washing casks? And show that you can work really hard and do that first. Everyone wants to do the brewing side of it, but actually that brew day is, you know, I'm brewing once a week maybe. And for the other 4 days, there's all the other stuff going on. You know, packing orders, filling kegs and casks, filling cans, doing all that sort of stuff is a big part of the brewing industry as well. And I would say like a willingness to work hard goes a long, long way. And a willingness to learn about that as well. And if you can like go into somewhere, show that you can work hard and be diligent, and you know, an attention to detail is really important in terms of like hygiene and cleanliness, obviously. So I would, if I was looking at someone who was like, you know, can I come in and pack boxes and help you can for a day, and just did that really and worked really hard and was like really fastidious about, I know it sounds really small things, but like just really fastidious about washing their hands all the time or like doing that sort of stuff. I would take that on board quite a lot more than saying, oh, I've done 100 different home brews. Mm-hmm. That stuff's important, but you need to have you need to have both sides of the coin, I
think. Jason's asked an interesting question about, have you changed a lot of your workload, you know, what you're doing day to day as a result, or is it, you know, almost literally more packaged, small pack than you expected?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like in terms of the Beak itself, so when the pandemic hit, I was actually still working at Burning Sky, and then I stayed on for a bit longer than I'd planned to, and that was a big change. So obviously, I guess here we've only ever known lockdown, so we were kind of able to go, okay, the pandemic's hit. We didn't actually start brewing until mid-July, by the time the first lockdown was being lifted. So we started, you know, doing quite a lot of can and a few kegs for the tap room. But the change at somewhere where Burning Sky, where we had a lot of on trade, to suddenly having to go overnight along with everyone else in the industry. Oh my God, we need 10,000 cans, and trying to get all those cans and all the stress associated with that. And suddenly there's a like global can shortage, you know, that was interesting. So yeah, that was a big change. And yeah, it went from us doing maybe 1 or 2 canning runs a week to like 4 a week up the road at Burning Sky. That was like a big change. But for us here at the Beak, it's been kind of all we've ever known. So during lockdown, we've just been doing a bit more can and not filling any kegs. We're also doing like, because we've got a lot of kegs in the cold store, we're doing draft to take away. And we're doing like local delivery of that as well. So around Lewis, we're maybe sending out 150 liters of draft beer every Friday.
Wow, really?
Which is not bad. And plus a bunch of cans and the rest of it. You know, filling some mini kegs, things like that. So it's the whole industry has had to go from this big volume model of a lot of breweries were just held up on really, really big volumes, pretty small margins, and most of it being on trade. And we were lucky enough to never be in that situation. So we could start and go, okay, well, we're going to brew like interesting different beers that people want to have a new can of every week, and we'll release a new beer every couple of weeks. And for that business model, lockdown isn't too bad, really. You know, having said that, for the industry's sake, I hope it gets better. You know, for my friends and colleagues, it's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a cask brewer right now, in particular,
there's a lot of heritage, a lot of history that could be lost, and that would be a great shame. So yeah, no. Rishi Sunak, if you're watching, I'm sure you are. Oh wait, you put me on full screen. Yeah, Rishi, the pub industry and hospitality industry needs more help than you're giving it. Johnny will have the details. Thank you very much.
I do have the details. You can check.
I saw your Twitter thread today. That's why I was
I got mad today with the Rishi chatting with Gordon Ramsay as if that's going to fix anything.
Oh my god! Yeah, I did think that. I was like, but he's fine. True. Yeah.
Just a man who he fired a load of staff right at the start. Like, he's not a person to be asking for advice from. And then I watched the video. It's just a PR stunt. They don't talk about anything. Like, for half of it, they talk about the fact that Gordon Ramsay did more YouTube as a result. You're like, yeah, that's an option for everyone. We have a channel when we couldn't do more YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to make a YouTube video. You know,
we're getting there.
We'll know how to make a YouTube video. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so somebody did ask at the start. You know, you've got a brewery just down the road that came out in support of SBR, and then we've also got Timothy Taylor's who have had to stop brewing cask and are still, you know, they're clearly in a tight spot. Is the answer to lower tax overall for breweries, or lower it for on trade, or how do we fix this?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even understand quite what's even going to happen with the reforms to SBR. So, you know, we'll. I mean,
see what happens.
We're so small, we're not going to have an influence on it, and we'll just have to go with what happens, basically. It will probably change depending on how steep that curve is. If they change the variable rate, it will change how quickly we grow. We might do a big jump.
I mean, instead of jumping at 5, you might have to jump at 2, which is harder.
Which we'll be at 2 by. So the changes in tax rate. There's a big increase in tax rate at the moment, over 5,000 hectoliters a year volume, and the government is thinking of changing that to 2,000 hectoliters a year, which we will hit in terms of volume probably at the end of this year. So that's quite soon, really, to be thinking about going big. Whereas before, 5,000 hectoliters a year is a lot more beer, really.
You'd probably have 4 or 5 years to think about it, whereas you guys, 18 months in.
It's a bit of a
right, let's move on to the final beer. I think we've got some people starting to say they're thirsty. While we're grabbing that, thank you very much, Victoria, for the support. And Robin, we wish you all the best. Thanks for the great tour, says Victoria.
Thank you.
It was a great tour, wasn't it? I thought it was a brilliant tour. Like, we all learned a lot collectively doing that. Very in-depth, great stuff.
I want to get me a mini version of your little CO2 hop infuser. I wonder if there's a home brew.
I can put you in touch with our manufacturers if you want to get one made.
Do you reckon he'll make one for my 20-litre fermenter?
Have you got tri-clamp fittings?
I will do soon.
Yeah, I mean, that big one was only 600 quid.
Interesting.
So I'm sure a smaller one would be less, maybe.
Or does it get more expensive the smaller it gets because it's harder to manufacture?
Well, I guess the smaller, though, if you had a really small opening, the hops wouldn't drop through, they'd get clogged. Actually, you need like a big 4-inch opening. So
we can do that. We're about to majorly upgrade in an announcement we haven't put out there yet, so I can't say more.
Exciting.
But big upgrades in the Johnny Homebrew department. Right, let's. Where are we? I cracked Moon already. I was getting confused there because I got it confused with Parade. So tell me about Moon while I get the emojis up.
So Moon, we brewed. It's a very similar grist to our to some of our other IPAs. So like a lot of extra pale malt, good portion. I think about 10% flaked oats, a bit of malted oats, some flaked wheat, just a little dab of caramel, just for a little bit of sweetness, and just to round it out a little bit. And then we tried a bit of ferment hopping with Citra and Brew One. So there's basically, when you're doing dry hopping, you would normally like wait for the fermentation to finish, drop the yeast off, and then dry hop, and it's a dissolving basically. You're infusing whatever oils there are in the hops straight into the beer, and there's not really any chemical change, or not much chemical change at that point. But if you're doing it during the ferment, then all the enzymes that are present in the yeast do something that we call biotransformation, which is basically just the yeast are chemically transforming some of the compounds in the hops into other ones, so you can get some interesting flavor compounds basically. So it was a little experiment with that. So the idea is you maybe go with Citra, you go from the more citrusy side of things to like fruitier, juicy side, and I think you get quite a like lasting orange juice sherbetiness to it that you don't get just with dry hopping like post fermentation. So it can be quite interesting. And then there's a lot of other fun science. So some hops have thiols, which are like these sulfur compounds that can not be that pleasant, and it can transform them in interesting ways. There's other flavor compounds where there'll be some really nice aromatic volatile bit will be bound to a sugar, and that can get cleaved and then releases the aromatic piece. So there's loads of like really complicated organic chemistry going on behind the scenes when you say, oh, we've done some ferment dropping. So biotransformation kind of covers a really broad range of reactions and processes in the beer, of which I know the tiniest tip of the iceberg. So yeah, but in short, it's a fun way to get different flavors out of the same hops. So yeah, let's give it a try. So certainly, one thing I do notice straight off the bat with beers where you add the hops during ferment, you do get a little bit more astringency. You get some more of the sort of tannic compounds, like a lot of the polyphenols come out a bit more, I think. And I don't know if I think I might be a traditionalist, and I think I maybe prefer it just post fermentation. But I don't know. What do you guys?
I mean, there's a definite kind of powdery bitterness to this one, which I think you're right is from that earlier dry hop. I quite like it. I think it cuts through the thicker body, and it's quite good. But equally, it doesn't feel as smooth as any of the other beers you've had. even the ones that were more bitter, more IBU bitterness.
Yeah, I think it just adds an astringency that I don't know. I think it just comes with the territory, really, of like that's the trade-off if you want, yeah, I'll probably experiment with it a bit more.
The comments are going absolutely wild for it.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, as long as people enjoy it, then that's, yeah. I think as a brewer, you get so much opportunity to try your own beer, and you end up like really nitpicking things that, as a punter, like when I try someone else's beer, I never do that really. Like I just enjoy it it's a nice beer. It's great. Like I don't. Whereas I think you can be quite, I don't know, you can end up getting quite self-absorbed in the criticisms of it.
Yeah, and also once you notice a flaw and it's your mistake or your flaw, it bugs you a lot more than noticing a little flaw in someone else's beer where you're like, yeah, I'm not sure it matters.
But you're almost looking for them as well. Like
yeah, and it's a real challenge for beer geeks as well. Particularly I find that I start looking for the flaws before the positives of it, and you have to sometimes have a little moment and go, no, wait, stop looking for that tiny hint of diacetyl or whatever it is.
Yeah. I think the thing is, as sort of someone for whom taste is like a professional thing, or enjoyment is, the enjoyment of food or beverage or whatever it is, because you have to at some point, you don't want to be that guy when you're out just for a drink with your mates and be like, well, this has got a bit of this on it, and it just ruins your enjoyment for you, but also like for everyone else. And so I don't know. Certainly, I've had to learn to turn that off and just go. I'm going to enjoy the setting and the beer, and that's fine. And it doesn't need to be perfect, and but yeah, it's certainly like if everything's always good, then nothing is as well. If you're always going for really nice stuff, then that becomes your new normal. And it becomes like this weird Netherland of like, oh, well, if I always drink really nice stuff, then that's normal. So then where do I get the really nice stuff now?
Yeah, and I think I've talked about this a couple of times tonight, but people criticize New England IPA for tasting the same. And I think it's because it's been so dominating that we've all got really quite good at making New England IPAs. We're all using very good ingredients, and we all have our processes slowly getting dialed in.
Yeah.
So they're going to taste the same because they're going to taste great. But we don't go to an artisan cupcake place and go, oh, your cupcakes taste the same. They're all great. We're like,
this red velvet is very good.
I taste the same all the time. It's so annoying. You're like, yeah, it's because our brewing industry is getting really fucking good at this style.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because hops can't move as fast, so that we can get more variation in. But it's starting to happen, and that's I think probably why it's nice to have a beer with a little bit of astringency, a slightly different texture. Yeah, that's all it is to me. A tiny tweak in texture.
It's funny. Some of the beers that I've been more worried about in terms of like, certainly Moon was one of them. I was, a bit more worried about it, and the reaction to them is like sometimes just completely opposite of what you think. And it just goes to show that like one palate is certainly not the be all and end all of taste. And you can get into this thing of, oh, but I don't like it, so will anyone else like it? But you're just one person, and there's thousands of people who will like something that
have a different palate. Yeah,
might be perfectly good and perfectly well brewed, but just might not be to your taste. Yeah.
So we've had a super chat from Ben, who's about to start doing a dry mid-Feb. He wants to know what your favourite core UK IPA in a pub is. What's your favourite draft IPA?
Oh my god.
I'll keep it silent until you answer.
It's a lot of pressure.
Full screen.
I'm sad to hear Ben is doing. I'm just going to sort of fill some time while you think. I'm sad to hear that Ben is going on a delayed dry January. He's very critical to craft beer channel on the Discord forum and elsewhere. So I hope, Ben, you're still going to drink some low to no alcohol beers for your dry January.
Our next live show, I can say this now, will be the 23rd 7th of March. So we all need to be drinking again by then. You need to clear.
That's over a month away from now, so it's all good.
Over a month away. Plenty of time for Ben to get back on the wagon. Do we have an answer, Robin?
Yeah, I've got it. It's going to be relatively predictable. I'm probably going to say, and I can say it now because I don't work for them anymore, probably Easy Answers would be up there.
Great beer.
Yeah, in terms of a great draft IPA.
What do you think it is about, I think Burning Sky, even though they are so well loved in the craft beer industry, I still think they're underrated. I still think them and Colonel are probably, I don't know, I'm projecting it.
Colonel, I might have to, I don't know, maybe a Colonel IPA. Yeah.
But what did you see at Burning Sky that you thought was going, this is why it's absolutely world class?
Just attention to detail and quality. Willingness to go, this isn't right, we need to change it. This isn't right, we won't release it. And like humility to say, we got this wrong, we won't do it like that again. But mainly it's just like knowledge, experience, a lot of people with bringing different things to the table in terms of, Mark is a great brewer, but then he also assembled like a really good team of people who could do like different bits to it and brought different things to the table. And it just, I think there's a lot to be said for sort of who you have brewing for you, as well as like who's doing the recipes and overseeing it all as well, because you need those people to do things right when you've got your back turned.
Is it just you on the brew team at the moment, or are there others?
Well, here, just me. Yeah, a team of head brewer who is in charge of one. Just me at the moment. But I think relatively soon we'll be looking at expanding staff. As we get more tanks and stuff.
Great. I mean, it's wonderful to see that a small UK business can grow and do that in the circumstances in which.
It's been. I got to say, the support is like, and the reaction that we've had has been like so far beyond and better than what we had ever envisaged. Like when we were coming up with the plan and business plan, we were quite conservative about sort of how much beer we'd be selling and how quickly we'd grow, and to just be far exceeding that with everything that's going on is kind of have to pinch yourself really. It's been great. So the team here is me doing like most of the brewing and packaging, Danny doing like sales, business side of things, marketing, and then we've got Kat who does like our ops stuff, like sorting out all the stock, all the local order, like all of the rest, like, and then we're all kind of doing, chipping in with everything else in between. So there's only 3 of us doing it all, and for free, it's quite a decent sized brewery to be running.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is like a nice point for us to move to the final section of the night, which is and given the comments tonight, could be fun, the Ask Us Anything time. Let's try to keep it focused on beer.
I'm worried. I'm really worried.
not on how much we fancy Brad, although
I am taken, by the way, for anyone who's any men or women out there who are interested. I'm loved up. But it's very flattering. Thank you.
So we'll give some time for some questions to roll in. If we missed your comment throughout, do feel free to repost it at this point. We do have a super chat from Doug. He's asking us to tell a joke.
Oh God, no.
No, for the wrong place here. I think maybe we need to defer that to the comments. If you guys want to put your favorite joke, clean joke. I mean, I can't. It's that classic thing. Someone asked for a joke.
It doesn't have to be clean. I mean, we're on YouTube's. The
It's
comments.
past the watershed. It's fine.
Just nothing that's racist or horrible.
We've got another rock and a hard place lager question.
Tenant Super versus Skull.
Bacon Flap.
So
Great name.
I don't think I've had Skull, at least not recently, and I definitely haven't had Tenant Super recently. Tenant Super, interestingly, isn't actually brewed by tenants anymore.
Is that right?
It's not brewed by tenants, and it's only brewed for the Italian market, I think, now.
What?
I don't even think it exists in Scotland anymore.
It's Tenet Super. It's seen as like a classy beer in Italy, correct?
I don't know. Look, if anyone knows, and I'm talking out my arse, and please stop me, but as far as I've heard, Tenant Super doesn't exist in Scotland, and is brewed for Italy for some reason. They love tenants in Italy as well. There's quite a lot of tenants. Like if you go to shops in Italy, apparently there's quite a lot of tenants. But yeah, if there's any Italians watching who want to prove me wrong, then I will more than happily be proved wrong.
Right. Okay. So we've got loads and loads of questions coming through. Let's keep our answers short. We'll do a quick fire round. Robin, hearts or Hibs?
I feel like I'm going to offend anyone, whoever I say.
It's a bit of that kind of question.
Hearts? I don't know.
Oh, there we go. You heard it here.
Yeah.
Non-IPA beer. What's your favourite on the market at the moment?
Am I allowed to say Colonel Table Beer?
Colonel Table Beer. It's a great beer. I'd argue that Lula is right up there with them. Favourite Harvey's beer?
Ooh, Imperial Stout. Got to be. Or actually, maybe Old. Pint of Old. Yeah, Pint of Old on a sparkler.
Pint of Old on sparkler. Do you look at Untappd ratings? That's
Never.
a good question for a brewer. No?
Never.
Does anybody at the brewery?
I think Danny does a bit, but I don't know.
You're doing okay. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
That's a question for us. We can't say quite yet. We're just in the final throes of organising it, but it's going to be an epic, ambitious one in the vein of our London Craft Beer Festival digital version in August last year. Big, bold, and cask led. Brighton Beer collab. You know the guys at Brighton Beer, Robin?
Yeah. I don't know them actually, but watch this space. We'll see if they yeah.
He's open to it. Have you made any dippers or tippers?
We've done some dippers. We got one dipper that's fermenting away actually. It's just started fermenting today, and it's going so mad that it's sort of all started. I came in this morning to the floor covered in yeast from it all like flowing down the down tube. No plans for any triple IPAs yet, but it might be fun to try one.
Do you have hobbies outside beer?
Yeah, I do a lot of cooking, and when I was allowed to, I did jiu-jitsu.
I suppose that's not very COVID friendly.
Not very good.
All the holds and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like breathing straight for someone. Yeah, no, not COVID friendly.
What do you think will be the big beer trend of 2021, Gavin?
Black IPA.
Black IPA. Come on. Come on.
Robin, now I know you're a jiu-jitsu man. If you had to be like an action hero, a Hollywood action hero,
God.
We're talking Arnie, anyone, Stallone, Stratham. Who would you be?
Which
You're a brewer, but you're an action hero because I know you can do jiu-jitsu now.
I don't know.
And why?
I'm blind to date up in here.
Right. Hear me out, okay? Tom Cruise, and then you could blow the lid on Scientology.
Mate.
Oh, that's a plot.
Take it down from the inside.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd watch that.
It could be like a whole rosé. You could hook up with Louis Theroux.
Yeah.
You know,
very
And there you go. You've pissed off the Hibs fans and Scientology now, mate. So I'll be careful.
One of those I'm more scared of than the other.
Who built your brew system?
So it was Malrex Fabrications from Burton-upon-Trent.
Favorite bar in Edinburgh?
I'm gonna go. Big fan of the Blue Blazer, or the Brow House, or not a beer bar, but Lucky Liquor is great.
I hadn't been to the first two. That's good to know. I'll remember them. Have you had to dump batches, and how do you deal with the disappointment?
Well, I guess one way to look at it is you're not dumping good beer down the drain, you're dumping bad beer down the drain. Right?
Yeah, great way of looking at it.
And, you know, what was it someone said to me once? It was life's too long for bad beer. Like, I want to be drinking bad beer for all 85 years I'm going to be alive. So we may as well make it good.
Amen. We've just had some super chats coming in. Oh God, my computer's flipping out with the number of comments. Oh boy, sorry guys. I'm trying to keep up with this. How do I get my hair like yours? I'm assuming you're not talking to me. I think Robin.
How'd you get your hair?
I don't think that's for me.
Don't wash it very much. Don't cut it very much. Be nearly 40 years old. There you go.
You do, to be honest. How'd you get your hair like yours, Robin?
Well, we actually as well ran out of shampoo day before yesterday, so this is just like a hat.
Very natural.
Yeah.
Got some good thick hair there, Robin. You'd be proud of that. Yeah.
It'll give me a few more years in the beer industry. I'm sure it won't look like this.
We've got a joke that's come in. He saved us as Doug. Strong as well. He's not wasted his super chat. Right, Jason, are you going to show some love to Three Hills Brewing in the near future? Maybe have them on a stream. They do stonking beers. Definitely. We got a load of beers from them a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, I had a really badly oxidized IPA. We reckon probably a bad can, but I had a beautiful big pastry stout, a lovely table beer, a lovely pale ale, and I've got a wee heavy I'm looking forward to. I'm going to save that for a cheese board this weekend. That's my big.
Where are they based? Three Hills? I've not heard of them before.
They're a bit north of London, Northampton-y, I think.
Okay. Are they new? Or am I just out of the loop?
Relatively new. Not as new as you.
Okay. I'm just out of the loop.
Yeah, I think you might be out of the loop on that one. They do make great beer.
I've been busy.
You've been running a business in a pandemic. Yeah. Freddie, thank you so much for your support. Oh God. Okay. I've lost some comments with that far behind. Mashed potato or roast potato?
Roast.
Why choose? Can we have both? I mean, like
Bradley.
Roast potato is dipped in mashed potato.
Yeah, that's the winner. That's the winner.
There you go. Johnny or Brad on OnlyFans? That's a question for the comments.
A very sexy route this evening. I'm not quite sure why.
Not sure what's happened.
We look different. I don't think we look different to normal. Like,
no, I'm not quite sure. Maybe
it's a full moon, guys. Maybe it's a full moon.
Full moon. It might be the plug behind you, Johnny.
Yeah, it could be.
Are we planning to brew horses again? Yeah, I'll probably brew it in autumn again. It kind of feels quite autumnal to me. So, yeah, we'll probably do something like it or something very similar in autumn.
Awesome.
Have you seen the film called Calm with Horses? That's quite a good film that I discovered on Netflix recently. I think you should do a beer called Calm with Horses. It's good.
I'll check it out.
Anyone out there checking out? Anyway, I'll stop nattering.
Oh, I was going to put you full screen for a story, Brad.
Coming British breweries. What are your picks?
New and upcoming British breweries. I am gonna have to say, New Barns, just because I got to give my mates a shout out, and they're also producing absolutely cracking beers. I know Mills get a lot of hype, but it's well deserved, and I guess they've only actually just gone full time at it.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Right. So they're kind of, in that sense, they're small and new, but they're like amongst the right circles. They get loads of hype, but it's totally deserved. One brewery that hasn't released a single beer yet, but I'm excited about just based on their Instagram. I don't know if you've seen Crossover Blendery pop up.
Yeah.
So they're doing some really cool mixed firm stuff, like mixed firm only. They're brewing at Elgood's, and then they're doing all kind of like nice fruit macerations, things like that. I think they're just about to release their first beers. They've been brewing for a year, but I guess that's the name of the game if you're doing mixed firm. Yeah, that looks cool. Having never ever tried their beers, but it looks like they're doing the right sort of stuff. So yeah, that would be a big one up there.
There you go. Good answers. We've got two people asking what your favourite Cloudwater beer is.
Ooh, I had that. The beer they did with Beer Couture, the lager that they did. I can't remember what it was called. This is really bad.
Somebody in the comments will know just from that. There's some encyclopedic knowledge.
I'm someone who just like tastes a beer and goes, "That's great," and I never remember like what I had or who it was by. It was so bad.
Most beers are made once, so you can never go back anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, they did a really nice like double decocted lager with Beer Couture, and it was just super well balanced and delicious. Yeah, that would be my favorite recent one.
You tried any Carnival Brewery?
Brewery. No, I don't really know any Liverpool breweries actually. Mad Hatter were Liverpool, weren't they?
They were, yeah. Sadly, now
yeah,
gone.
That would be posthumously. Yeah, they did some wacky beers.
Should we get rid of Untapped?
No, I don't have anything against Untapped. You know, it's a really cool app. It's useful for the drinker. I just don't think it's that useful for the brewer. You know, it's a tool in terms of like we can see trends and things like that, and that's useful. But in terms of like, we're not going to use it for QC. We've got our own QC program, and we have proper tastings and things like that, and we can assess the beers before they're released into the public. Whereas Untapped, like it can show you big trends. I think it's cool for the drinker. No, if you enjoy it, keep it.
What's your favourite Belgian, say, mixed firm beer? What would you go to with your barrel program?
Probably something Tilcan, maybe a Jourdain Black label. Yeah, Jourdain Black label. I'm gonna go.
I go Boom Black.
Oh, nice.
I love that beer. I've seen a couple of comments about a festival. Did you say there'd be a festival one day?
We did say there would be a festival one day. Yeah. There's this pesky, thing in the way of it. This thing. I don't want to say the C word. Yeah, there will be a festival. As soon as it is safe for us to do so, we will do it. A big thing at the moment is, can you actually get insurance to run a festival? A beer festival, you've got to outlay quite a lot of money to buy all the beer, to get all the brewers involved, all the equipment, etc., etc. So, at the moment it's very uncertain. So we don't want to get anyone's hopes up and say a date when we don't really know what the lay of the land is. But as soon as we can, we will let everyone know. We really want to basically create like an awesome world-class beer festival in the historic town of Lewis. It should be great.
Oasis or Blur? Great question. Love that one.
I mean, definitely Blur, but really neither.
Pulp.
I'd imagine you're a Blur guy as well, Brad.
Pulp.
Pop.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, Pulp. It's Pulp. Come on.
Gotta play the game.
Well, no, Pulp is the thinking man's alternative. I've actually met Elvis Cocker as well. So yeah, we went to the same
I saw him
school.
at the train station once. That's my yeah.
Good one. He complained about the noise from my brother's pub once.
Really? Jarvis.
Okay. Yeah, not very rock and roll if you ask me.
Right. Yeah, it's not really.
DDH. I assume all your beer is DDH. Well, I guess actually Moon was.
What do you mean by DDH? Moon is, yeah. The other ones aren't really. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a term that I think once meant something, and I don't know if it really means what it's meant to mean now. Yeah, Moon. Anything your fermentation, dry hopping. Yeah, it's double dry hopped. Most of the beers though, we finish fermentation, a little bit of warm conditioning, crash out the yeast, and then we just do all the hop charge all at once. I don't know. There's maybe a slight increase in change in flavor if you do DDH, but yeah, we don't do it generally for most of our beers.
Any plans for a Gosa?
Maybe not.
Maybe not a Gosa fan.
Nah. Sours definitely, but yeah, I'm not a. Yeah.
You like the more complex ones.
Any post de la Seine? What do you think they mean by post de la Seine?
I guess it would be like post kernel, so modern craft breweries in the vicinity of Brussels.
Right, in Brussels. I don't really know, to my shame. Haven't been to Brussels in a good while. So yeah, if you know any, post them in the comments. I'd love to hear.
We've got some people saying black IPA for the win.
Yes. I kind of said it as a joke, but I'm kind of up for it.
I'm currently writing an article for Good Beer Hunting all about where black IPA came from, which amazingly was invented by the same guy that invented New England IPA, Greg Noonan. And then why it's coming back now. So trying to find similarities between the culture at the time of it coming and the time of it coming back.
Like a Sabro stout.
Yeah, somebody said Sabro and black IPA can really work. Coconut and
watch this space. This might happen.
We'll brew one with you. We'll do a collab. We'll make sure it sells by putting it out on YouTube. Any Belgian styles other than Saison coming from those barrels?
Good question. No plans of yet, but certainly not adverse to doing some sort of no plans at the moment, but again, with time and space comes more styles.
How much academic reading are you still doing?
Yeah, not academic in the academic sense of the word. I mean, I do a lot of research, and I read like brewing articles, research that our hop companies come out with, things like that. In terms of actually looking up and researching original papers, I'm not doing that anymore.
Right, guys, we are running out of time, and I'm aware that we've got so many other questions to get to. So I'm really sorry if we do miss the questions that you're giving it to us. There are some great ones, and there are also some ones that seem to be they're still a bit steamy from the brew tour, I think, possibly. Here's a good question from Daniel Blount. How do you experiment with recipes? Are you doing them all on the bigger scale, or do you have a sort of test?
We do have a test brew kit. At the moment, it's sort of hidden at the top of the mezzanine behind about 20 pallets. Basically, when we come up with a recipe, we brew 2,500 liters of it. Yeah.
Bold.
That's it.
Jamie, we can absolutely chat to Overtone. We really enjoy their beers, and they're all very consistent, which is always a big thing for us because we need consistency over at least 4 or 5 beers. So definitely, we've got another gag. It's all Doug. Dyslexic man walks into a bra. Hey. Here's a lovely question. Another super chat. iPhrase asks, what are your goals for the rest of 2021?
Drink our beer in a pint glass in a pub with some friends.
Great aim, isn't it?
That's all I want.
That's all I just want to drink Beak in a pub. Really do.
Some pubs. Go be like, yeah, I'll have a pint of parade. That'd be great.
That would be an absolute dream. Guys, we're going to end it there. Thank you so much for all of the comments that you sent away and all of the questions. I'm really sorry if we didn't get to yours, but we've had a huge response to this, both in terms of the people watching and the comments that we've had. Just to answer some final last questions, there will not be an OnlyFans account happening.
Never say never. Never say never.
Okay, there probably will never be an OnlyFans account from the Craft Beer channel. All that's left to say is, firstly, please support your independent retailers and brewers. It's never been more important, and that's a lot of what this show has been about. We teamed up with Cave Direct to sell these boxes via independent retailers, as well as via Beer Merchants, which is Cave Direct's consumer company. So I really hope that, if you hadn't been to a local retailer and you did, you had a great time, and that you keep supporting them. Because there's some amazing businesses out there that really need us right now, and particularly when the pubs reopen as well, they're really going to need us. Just a quick note from Cave Direct. Firstly, they want to give a big shout out to everyone that got involved, both the people drinking and the people who were selling the beers at their own bottle shops. Cave Direct also want to say that they have another exciting pre-order coming on Monday, bottle shops, which will include another hosted event just like this. No further details on that one, but yeah, on Monday there'll be another event to help promote bottle shops and independent breweries. All that's left to say really is, Robin, thank you so much for being such a good tonight. We threw a lot of questions at you.
I just want to say that was the best event too we've had around brewery as well ever, I think.
Any chance of a live tasting with a Scottish brewery mentioned by Robin today? Yeah, well, I reckon I'm friends with New Barnes as well. I reckon
New Barnes. I think they'd be up for this.
I think so too. So I promise you, anyone that Robin recommends has a shout at doing a live show with us.
Yeah, I think Johnny Hamlet would be up for this.
I think so. And their beer is stellar, and they're another of our picks. And we always try to do a video or a live show with one of our picks of the year. So this year we picked Beak, New Barnes, Utopian, Overtone, and someone else. So
we're due for an Overtone then. We've had some.
It doesn't sound like we need an Overtone one. So coming up. So guys, thank you so much for all the comments and for watching to the end. It's been one of our biggest ever live shows as well, so thank you. And Robin, thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to say a quick thanks to all the bottle shops that have taken part in this and who buy our beer regularly. Like, without bottle shops, we wouldn't be where we are at the moment, and they've kind of been the lifeline that's got us through this. So yeah, thank you to everyone that's bought our beer, that's enjoyed this evening. Thank you guys for coming along and having a sort of virtual pub night with us. It's been great. Thank you guys for the Craft Beer channel, and thank you, Dave. I think that's everyone.
Oh wait, I've got no beer in my glass. There we go. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you soon. And if you're not a member of our Patreon, please do join, because I'm sure they'll be partying after this in our unique forum. Cheers.
Cheers.
We've got merch as well. I'm going to fit in before we go.
We get this before we stop being live.
T-shirt.
There you go. Buy the merch before we get sued and have to take it down. Oh, Bradley, don't do a fashion show.
This Milton Glaser T-shirt. It's rad. And we've got this. Oh, there we go, Johnny. We've got a black We've got a beer savant hoodie. There you go. All sorts.
IP theft for the end of the show. Guys, we love you. Stay safe, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Cheers, everyone.